Welcome to the Elevate podcast, brought to you by the Registered Master Builders. Each week we explore the ideas and practices that help us get the best from our businesses, our teams and ourselves. I'm your host, Ryan Castle. We talk to experts, advocates and business owners in the construction industry to share their knowledge, insights and experiences to help you build a better business and enjoy a better life. Now let the business building begin. Hey, welcome along to this edition of the Master Builders Elevate podcast. Delighted to be joined by Alan and Eddie from the Whangarei District Council. They've undertaken an epic construction project with the Whangārei Civic Centre Project, and we're delighted to have you guys on the podcast today to learn more about that. Welcome in.
Thank you, Ron.
Alan, I wonder if we could start with you. Could you share maybe the vision behind this project and give us a bit of idea about what was involved in the planning and construction phases?
And it started probably 30 years ago because our council staff have been under 4 different roofs for all that time. And everyone knew we had to change that, had to get together, but there was always other priorities, always other things to do, and we never quite got the will to commit the money and then commit the time to make it happen. So I joined council in 2006. A week later, we moved 2/3 of our staff into a building on a short-term lease while we got this sorted. And nearly 20 years later, we're finally there.
I bet whoever had the other end of that lease was pretty happy that they thought you were going to be there for 6 months and ended up being 20 years.
Yeah, so I got involved then. I've managed this through 7 different political cycles. And every time that change, you stop and you start again. So we've gone through that process. In that time, I investigated around 25 different sites around the city. We'd done concept plans for 10 of them, bulk allocation for 6, but without ever getting to the start line. So fast forward to 2018, our lease was expiring up again on that site. I said, we're not going to renew, we're going to finally get this thing moving. So the council today committed to do that. We consulted to our long-term plan and we agreed on putting some money aside, but still couldn't decide where to put it. So we went through the process and agreed we should go forward, but still didn't know really where we wanted it. There were 2 key sites, one in the CBD, which was going to be, if you like, an economic catalyst for our community by putting investment into that area, which needed some development, or building it next door to our old facility and our library and theatre to make more of a civic precinct. And that's where we ended up deciding to do it.
Right.
So we started that in 2018, got the design process eventually after selecting our team. And 2 days after that process started, we went to the first COVID lockdown. So we designed the whole thing on Zoom. We built it during COVID, and at the back end, we had 2 cyclones to deal with. So it's been a challenge getting there. But we got there in the end.
Indeed, you're persistent, if nothing else, Alan. And can you give our listeners an idea of the scope of the project, maybe cost and the size of the building, what's involved there?
Yeah, that was an interesting process too, because because it took such a long time to get to the point of building, we kept growing, our district kept growing as well, and what we needed kept getting bigger. So while we went to market originally, when we consulted about a building about 5,000 square metres, which is going to cost around $40 million, we had the first step of the process once we assembled our team was to revalidate that work and say, what do we need? What are our future needs based on population growth? But also by then we're also providing facilities for the other councils as well in Whangarei through a collaboration for our transportation teams. So we need to make it bigger. So we also did a utilisation study where we got a company in to effectively do a time motion study, looked at our meeting room needs, desk utilisation. All that came into a melting pot. And we decided to actually build something which was going to be 8,000 square metres. So it grew from 5 to 8. And the budget at that point moved to $48 million.
Right.
That's where we started. Because of all the issues with COVID, we had some major issues to deal with there, rampant escalation, lockdowns, extension of times, etc. The final bill ended up just on $60 million.
And I'm curious, Alan, given the impact that COVID had on the way we were working, I think we've seen design in lots of commercial buildings transition with the way they shape workspaces now, with people doing some work from home and more meeting rooms and free-form areas. Did that factor into the design?
It didn't. We were actually a bit of the head of the game there. We had already enabled our staff to work from home. We had a facility where staff could purchase monitors, chairs, through our council rates to have at home. That was before COVID. We were already embracing flexible working. Obviously, it accelerated with COVID. And we thought long and hard during that time, actually, do we need an office this big or not? But we came to the conclusion that we got through COVID really well as an organisation because of our strong team culture. And that culture came by being together. So we said we still want to embrace flexible working, but we still want to have a base for all of our staff to come to. However, in the building itself, all our meeting rooms are equipped with a lot of audio-visual gear, so we can have meetings really easily. They're configured to just plug and play. So you haven't got 10 minutes to set a meeting up, you just come in and do your work, whether you're in the office or not. So we've got that nailed. That was part of the design we briefly consciously made.
I like that. And it's had a significant impact on the whole community. This wasn't just a building for the council. And I think particularly the name, Te Iwitahi, was of really significant cultural importance. Can you give us some insight into that?
Yeah, I guess that came out of the collaboration with Hapu right through the project. Right at the very start, we wanted meaningful engagement with our local hapu, particularly the mana whenua for the site, which is Te Parawha. We had a series of hui with them, which helped us through the design and construction phases, not just how we went about a lot of the design elements. And right at the end of that process, there was a further hui where they gifted us the name Te Iwitahi, and that means literally for everybody. So this is our community's building. It was designed with input from the whole community. It's designed to be multicultural, not just bicultural, and that name is quite profound. That process can take a long time normally to come to fruition, but we went at the hui. It was held by Hapu directly, but I'm told that was probably one of the quickest processes I've ever been through to come to that name because of the inclusion and the way they're involved in the project all the way through. So very apt.
Yes, very apt. I love that. It got such strong meaning and great inclusion for everyone involved. And if we talk about a project of this size, it obviously requires a lot of input, a lot of labour. Was it able to have a positive impact on the local community? Maybe, Eddie, can you answer this one for us?
Yeah, sure. The project had a significant impact on the local labour market. We had local trades and subcontractors making up over 85% of the workforce. That stimulated our local economy, but really importantly, as Alan was saying before, with things like COVID hitting us, it meant that at times we were able to keep going, especially when those borders were shut down and we couldn't have staff moving between Auckland and Whangarei. So that was really, really good. It's also seen new businesses develop, which was really, really exciting. There's a really good example of one contractor who was driving a digger on site through demolition. And by the end of the project, he had his own business employing 25 labourers, most of whom were previously on some form of social support. So it was really quite an amazing thing to see these businesses flourish and the impact that it was having on people's lives.
Outstanding. That's such a cool story.
Yeah, I think we'll see the reaping of the benefits for quite a while to come as well, because we had loads of trainees and apprentices on site. They made up at least 15% of the workforce. So really also it was building skills and capability into our community, meaning that local employment and other businesses would also benefit. Additionally to this, we're really, really proud to have up to 20% of the workforce being female at times, which is pretty unusual for this industry. So we really tried to target as many areas as we could.
And how did you go about getting a over-representation of females involved?
It was a bit of pressure on our contractors. There was an expectation there. And so we had some targets and KPIs in place, which we wanted to have met.
Nice. It's a very appropriate way to use influence. When you're getting a very large project together and you're bringing the community view of what you're trying to achieve to the table, as well as obviously the physical view of what you're doing, it's brilliant. And we certainly need a higher representation of females in our construction industry, that's for sure. So thanks for the contribution there. Maybe Alan, back to you. I know that the project has won some incredible awards, Supreme Awards and Architecture Awards. Can you give us a bit of insight into what some of those awards have been and what it's meant to the people involved in the project?
Yeah, I guess when we put our brief together right at the start of the project, we had a line in there, an award-winning building. So that was sort of a stretch goal for us. Obviously, we were always challenged about being public money. Yeah, you hate spending it wisely. We wanted to set a high standard for what we're doing here. So getting the awards is really validation, not just for what we set out to do, but the way it was done. And really important to note, the awards are not for us, they're for our partners on the project. It's for the architect. It's for Can-Am, who are the builder. It was for T-Big, who are our project managers. They got the awards with our project, and they deserve the kudos for that, more than we do. But it's really great to see it come together, and the way we've gone about it, as well as what we've done being recognised by external parties who see things right across the sector to say, hey, we have done something special. And that feeds back for us about civic pride. We wanted this building to be a benchmark for our community and set a standard for future development in Whangarei. If we'd gone budget, the next builder would have gone budget with what they did. So here's a chance to set a standard about what we want here, and then it would validates that. But at a more personal level for Eddie and I, we've lived and breathed this for a long time. It was a tough time. It was a lonely job as well. And it's a nice personal validation there of all the hard work we've done. So it's a nice personal thing, but that's all great. That's icing on the cake. The really important thing is we've got a great facility for our community, but even beyond that, a great place for our staff. And where we'd been was not great for many, many years. And it's a great environment to work in. We've had people want to come to council because of a building now, which is great, and attracting people. But probably the most telling thing for me, we did some benchmarking before we moved into the building. Council often get accused of being working in silos. We don't talk to each other. Different departments don't talk. So we did survey our staff, and we got an internal rating of 60% of staff saying we do good collaboration. We've done it 12 months after moving in here, and that scores over 80%.
Wow.
So we're seeing those tangible benefits already by having been under one roof. We've been careful as to who we sat beside each other to get those information flowing, and that's paying off. Now, that's better for our staff, but better for our community as well, because we're more efficient. We get things out the door quicker. People can get what they want done more quickly. Everybody wins out of that. So, yeah, the awards are great, but it's what the awards represent is more important to us.
Of course. And I think you're being very humble. I feel like both of you deserve a persistence award for sticking with the project for so long and actually getting it nailed. So well done. Maybe coming back to you, a number of the contractors working on the project are registered master builders members. Can you give us some insight what it was like working with them during the project?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess first off, this is not our day job. For me personally, this is the first type of project like this I've ever done.
And me.
So it really was about hiring the experts and trusting the process a little bit. Yes, sure, we questioned left, right and centre throughout the process so that we could understand and make sense of things. But having registered master builders with us made the experience so much better. It was so much smoother. It felt like we were in a safe set of hands. I felt safe to ask questions and not feel dumb about those questions, and got really good answers, which helped me then relay information onto the rest of the organisation. The result of the work that they completed is fantastic. So really, really happy with the outcome. Amazing learning opportunity, I think, for everyone.
Thanks, Eddie. Good insights, and glad you were well taken care of by our Master Builders members. They're a good bunch. Maybe, Alan, coming back to you. So the head contractor on the project was Can-Am Commercial. Can you tell us how they were selected and some of the things you learnt working with them in such a large project?
Yeah, when we did our procurement for the project, we took a slightly different approach because of where we were at the time. We got agreement to go to market to start the process, but still hadn't decided where we wanted it. So didn't know what we wanted to build. So we had to think a bit innovatively about that. So our procurement model was not to go and hire an architect, then hire an engineer, then hire a builder. We went out to say, let's get a lead contractor and ask them to bring a team together and bring that to us. So bring an architect you've worked with in the past. We had a brief, and you get someone you know will get the right advice, the right design that's buildable, to meet the client brief. So rather than us trying to put that together, we said to the builder, you know who you work with, you know who you trust, you bring that team together. So we went through an ROI process for that. We had about a dozen people interested in submitting for that. From that, we selected 3 to go through to a formal shortlist process, and then they went through interviews, etc. Interestingly, price was not a factor at all in our decision. Yeah, for local government.
At all?
It was
at
solely
all,
on
at all?
Yeah, we looked solely on the quality of the team they brought together, their track record in delivering projects on time, because that was critical to us because we're at least expiring, but also the methodology to follow in doing it. And we then, again, a bit unusually for the sector, we invite those people into council as part of the RFP process to meet with us and actually run some workshops. Now, that's about making sure the people we select aren't just good on paper, but they're going to fit with us. Their culture aligns with us, the way they go about stuff. And looking someone in the eyes allows you to do that. So we're a little unusual in doing that, but that step was invaluable. We do have to work with these people for up to 4 years. There are going to be some challenging conversations during that time. We wanted someone we could trust. We knew would work the same way that we would. So we can have those tough conversations, but never break down the relationship. And if I look at the group we shortlisted, Can-Am clearly had a group that worked with together previously. And they could show us what they've done, not just tell us what they've done. And their culture fit with ours. So, yeah, we've had some pretty robust conversations on the way through, but we're still good friends to this day. And that process worked. So that'd be great news.
What a great outcome. And it just seems such a smart approach, doesn't it, to bring a team together that already knows how they work, already have relationships, have communication channels already established, rather than bringing 3 or 4 different engineers and architects and head contractors together and kind of sticking them in the room and going, hey, I hope you guys work well together. Yeah, it's a
that's right.
very, very smart approach. When you hear it laid out, you're like, why don't we do it that way all the time? It makes a lot of sense. Yeah, very, very good. Yeah, I wonder if I can come to you, and can you give us some insights? Were there any particular design principles or special features that you really want to make sure were built into Te Iwitahi?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Loads and loads. But probably some of the most important were universal design and sustainability. So I'll talk a little bit about sustainability because we've got some really great outcomes from that. It was a priority for us from the get-go to lead by example. And it started with the demolition of the existing buildings that were on site at the time. So from that demolition process, we had only 2.5 skips go to landfill. Everything else was reused and recycled. Then during the design process, green principles were woven into the building. So solar, rainwater collection. We've got something like 3,000 sensors throughout the building monitoring our air temperature and light control. So really it was about, how do we make this building sustainable? How do we reduce our carbon footprint? And, we've got goals as a council to become carbon zero in the very near future. So this building will help us achieve some of that. And then also when, we were building, some of the materials we used were net zero as well, like our carpet, for example, totally carbon neutral, which is a really, really good story. Soundproofing made from recycled materials. And to help us through that process, we also had sustainability as a weighted criteria in our procurement processes. So some of the stuff that we included in that, for example, would be your proximity to site. And the closer your business was to site, the higher the score that you would get in that area. And so the more likely you were to get the job. So sustainability is really, really important for us. I think we've done a really, really good job. We are in the process at the minute of getting our neighbours accreditation, and from there we'll see how much this building can perform and get better and better year on year.
Outstanding. Just so great to see council leading by example with those kind of things. You're such an important influencer in community, and if you can demonstrate you're doing it yourself, then it makes it a whole lot easier to go out to the community and say, hey, join us on this path, team. Okay. Alan, such a significant project. What impact do you think it's going to have on local community and your governance going forward? Yeah,
well, I think an enduring one. If you think back to, I guess, the turn of the start of the 20th century, every town had a big town hall. And it was with the hub of the city or the town. Over the years, we've gone away from that, but I think we're back there again now. We've got a building here which our community takes pride in. It is a landmark. It sits at a really important part of the city where we have two shared paths, which are alongside the railway line, which are both a cycle path, goes through all the schools and joins the whole community up. And that's the central point. That's where our building is. So it is a focal point in that sense. It's also a much more accessible place to participate in local democracy, as well as the being able to get into the building easily through universal design aspects. The chambers are more welcoming. The whole facility is more welcoming. But also we've got great live streaming facilities as well there. So you can come to the meeting personally or see it online and see it that way. So that's making everything more accessible. The building itself is welcoming. Above the front door, we've got a sign. We went out to our local group called the Multicultural Collective, and we collected as far as we can tell, the welcome in every language of the ethnic group in Whangarei in their script. There's over 56 different ways of saying welcome above the front door.
Wow.
It's for the whole community. Te Iwitahi for everyone. I think that's how it's being viewed. It is welcoming, it's multicultural, and it's, as I said, it set the standard for development in Whangarei. So hopefully that is now a benchmark where new buildings put up will try and aspire to match or surpass us, which would be even better. But I think it also helps to instill that civic pride, which every community wants to have. So, yeah, I think it's going to make an enduring impact. It's built to last, and I think it will.
And what advice would you give if there was another, doesn't even have to be a council, let's say another organisation looking to embrace a project of this kind of significance? Interested to hear maybe from each of you, what would be a piece of advice you'd give to that organisation looking to undertake a project like this?
Put the groundwork in first, really understand what your needs are, understand how you function and operate and deliver what it is that you do deliver. Consider the future and how that might change, how you can do things differently, not just doing what you've always done, but go into it bravely as well.
I like that. And Alan, how about yourself?
Yeah, look, I did that. While this is our first construction project of any magnitude, I'll be involved in many other types of project, whether ICT or organisational, and it's all plan, then do. So it's do the groundwork up front, know what you want, and really focus on the outcomes you're after, not just the built product, but what you want to actually do for you. And if you keep that in mind, you make sure the right thing gets built. So it's outcome, not output is the key, I think, and think big, and you said before, be persistent.
Yeah.
Because these things are hard. You've got to be resilient and you've got to focus on the end goal.
Like that. And I imagine you're a proponent of the 5 Ps, proper planning prevents poor performance. I think there's a slightly extended version of that, 5 Ps with the 6 Ps, but we'll leave that for the construction side, not the podcast. Eddie, what's something you personally enjoy working in this building? What's something that's you found joy in?
It's seeing the building getting used. We created this space and the awards were amazing, but the biggest reward is seeing my colleagues being able to collaborate and work. It's seeing the cafe downstairs full. It's seeing our democracy process in action with members of the public being able to come in and participate. It's seeing the playful spaces outside at the front of the building getting used by kids on the way home from school. Those are the things that I like.
Excellent. And Alan?
Oh, I can't add much to that. It says it all. We got there, and it is amazing, and I think it's something which we do take pride in, and seeing others take pride in it too is really, really good.
Okay. Gentlemen, it's been so informative hearing about the process, the impact it's had on the community, the impact it's having on your own team, how you're able to serve your community better through what you've achieved with this project. It's outstanding. One question in closing for each of you, which is, given how much time, effort and energy went into this personally from each of you, if you had your time again, would you still put your hand up for the project?
Without a doubt.
I'm not sure my family would say yes, but I would.
I like that. Look, gentlemen, I can see the pride in you and the energy that you talk about with what you've achieved with this project. So congratulations. Thank you on the behalf of your community I no doubt hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of effort in pulling this together. And it was fantastic that the Registered Master Builders and some of their members could play a small part in having this come together as well. So thanks for joining us on the podcast today. I've really enjoyed our discussion.
You're welcome. Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks for having us.